There's a song that everyone, at least once in their life, has heard. A simple melody, yet powerful enough to touch the soul. A hymn that speaks of pain, hope, and rebirth. Amazing Grace. But few know the true story hidden behind those words. A powerful story, dark at first, radiant in the end. The story of a man who hit rock bottom and then rose again. His name was John Newton. He was born in England in 1725, the son of a sea captain. He grew up between ports and the waves of the ocean, hardened by the rough life of seafaring. After losing his mother at a young age, Newton began working aboard ships very early. But these were no ordinary ships. They were slave ships. Ships that transported human beings in chains from Africa to the Americas, treated as cargo. John Newton wasn't just complicit in this horror. He became one of its main actors. He rose through the ranks until he became captain of a slave ship. He lived immersed in brutality, with a heart increasingly hardened and indifferent to the lives of others. But then, something happened. One night in 1748, during a crossing of the Atlantic, his ship was struck by a violent storm. Towering waves, snapped masts, and water pouring into the hold. Newton feared that every moment might be his last. And in that moment of panic, he did something he had never done before. He prayed, "Lord, have mercy on us." Against all odds, the ship survived, and Newton began to change. It wasn't an instant conversion, but a deep and gradual transformation. He left the slave trade. He studied theology. He became a pastor in the Church of England. And in that man, who once treated human beings as mere objects, a new conscience was born. A desire to bear witness, to tell the world that grace, when it comes, can change everything. In 1772, he wrote the words of a hymn that would travel the world, a hymn that doesn't glorify his virtue, but confesses his guilt and the power of the forgiveness he received. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. Newton didn't just sing. He wrote tracts against the slave trade. He worked alongside William Wilberforce, one of Britain's leading abolitionists, and he offered his testimony to expose the horrors he had seen and committed. John Newton died in 1807, the very year the British Parliament abolished the slave trade across the empire. A coincidence, or perhaps a sign. And then there's a part of the story that takes us further north to Scotland. Even though Amazing Grace is a Christian hymn born in England and made famous in the United States, over time it became something much more. Today, many see it as a true anthem of the Scottish soul. But how did that happen? It all begins with the melody. The modern version of the hymn is often played with the Scottish bagpipes, one of the most evocative and emotional instruments in Celtic tradition. When played this way, Amazing Grace takes on a solemn, aching tone, capable of touching deep emotional chords. It has become central in military ceremonies, funerals, and moments of deep remembrance. During World War I and II, the song was often performed to honor fallen soldiers. In Scotland, where historical memory, funeral music, and military tradition are deeply felt, Amazing Grace found a special place in people's hearts. But its connection to Scotland goes beyond music. Scottish spirituality, rich in hymns, religious songs, and inward reflection, embrace this hymn as a universal symbol of redemption, hope, and transformation. Newton's words of a man who was lost, blind, then found and saved, echo strongly among Scotland's churches and hills, where the spiritual feeling runs deep and sincere. And finally, there's a cultural and historical link, the Scottish diaspora. For centuries, thousands of Scots emigrated to America, bringing with them their folk songs and ancient melodies. In that context, Newton's words joined a Celtic tune, giving birth to the version of Amazing Grace we know today. In a way, this song is the fruit of an encounter between the repentance of an Englishman, the music of the Scottish heart, and the deep soul of those who seek redemption. Today, Amazing Grace is sung everywhere, in churches, at funerals, in moments of sorrow and hope. It is a universal hymn. It needs no specific religion, no fixed place. It speaks directly to the heart, Because in each of us, there is something to be forgiven, something to be saved, and perhaps, even if just for a moment, something to be found again. Grace is truly amazing.